Hi everybody, this is a story that dates way back to 1940s India when World War II just ended. India had just got her independence, and for the first time in the history of mankind, the leaders of the world had seen the power of a nuclear bomb at Hiroshima, August 9, 1945. And when people saw what these bombs did to Japan, everybody realized that if they want to command power in the 21st century, they have to have a nuclear bomb. And this is where, ladies and gentlemen, the nuclear race began, with the most powerful countries, including the US, UK, and Russia, testing their nuclear weapons. To prepare for this nuclear race, while US did their tests in 1945, Russia did it in 1949, UK did it in 1952, France did it in 1960, and lastly, China conducted their tests in 1964. But as soon as this inner circle of world power finished their nuclear test, they came up with something called the Non-Proliferation Treaty in 1968. This treaty stated that non-nuclear states must commit themselves to not manufacture or acquire nuclear weapons, while nuclear weapon states commit not to in any way assist, encourage, or help any non-nuclear state to acquire nuclear weapons. Basically, this treaty said, now that all the big boys have nuclear bombs, let's make sure that nobody else has it. In fact, India actually proposed a failed treaty, saying that we all will disarm and promise not to develop weapons as long as the nuclear states promise to completely disarm their nuclear weapons. But the harsh reality of geopolitics is that nobody gives a fish about justice or equality, so it got rejected. But you know what, guys? As soon as the West proposed this unequal deal of non-proliferation, everybody jumped on board, and 191 countries signed this treaty, except India, Pakistan, and Israel. And later, even North Korea withdrew from it. On the 20th of October 1962, the Chinese army launched a massive attack on India. On the 20th of October 1962, the Chinese invaded Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh, and India lost about 43,000 square kilometers of land, which was captured by China in accession. And from then till today, there have been border tensions between India and China. And then immediately, in just 3 years, we got attacked again by Pakistan, and this led to the 1965 India-Pakistan War. On top of that, Pakistan tried to get cozy with China because we were their common enemy. And during the same time, India was a very weak country because our economy was in turmoil. We were facing both severe food shortages and famine problems all across the country. So in short, Pakistan and China were just one attack away from destroying our country. And this vulnerability is the reason why we did not sign the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, the Cold War between India and Pakistan began. We saw three legends come together to achieve this incredible security deterrence for India. Who are Lal Bahadur Shastri, Homi Bhabha, and Durabji Tata? While Durabji Tata actively financed research initiatives, Homi Bhabha was able to use this capital to establish world-class institutes like Tata Institute of Fundamental Research and Trombay Atomic Energy Establishment in 1954. And cherry on the cake, in 1965, that is just 1 year after China became a nuclear state, Shastriji actively gave the go-ahead for the production of nuclear explosives in India. And this is what led to the launch of the Nuclear Explosive Design Group and something called the Study of Nuclear Explosions for Peaceful Purposes, or SNEEP. And you know what, guys? We were so close to developing this nuclear weapon that in a 1965 interview to All India Radio, Homi Bhabha had said that if he had the green signal, India could make a nuclear bomb in just 18 freaking months. But shockingly, in just 3 months, in January 1966, Homi Bhabha died in a plane crash. And what's even more shocking is that in the same freaking month, even Shastriji died due to suspicious reasons. As a result, the nuclear program of India took a hit. And just 5 years later, another India-Pakistan war broke out in 1971 when Pakistan launched something called Operation Searchlight on East Pakistan, which is modern-day Bangladesh. The most pathetic thing about this operation was that Pakistan did this just to bully Bangladesh and keep it under its control. But in this process, the Pakistani army made one big mistake. In December 1971, the Pakistani Air Force attacked the airfields in India. When they did it, it gave India the legal justification to formally enter the war. In between this war, you know what happened? The United States of America deployed their 75,000-ton 7th Fleet against India in the Bay of Bengal. It was the world's largest warship and had a capacity to carry more than 70 fighters and bombers. On the other side, we have the British ships in the Arabian Sea. And between this British and American fleet was our one and only INS Vikrant with barely 20 light fighter aircraft. And here's where, as we all know, Russia came to our rescue with a nuclear-armed fleet, with 2 cruisers, 2 destroyers, support vessels, along with 6 freaking submarines. This is the reason why the British and Americans backed out, and finally, Bangladesh got its independence in March 1971. And this is when Richard Nixon, the then president of the US, actually considered dropping a nuclear bomb in India in 1971. So, immediately on September 7, 1972, Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi authorized the work on nuclear fission devices. A small team of 75 scientists from the Bhabha Atomic Research Center began the process of designing and developing an atomic bomb for in-depth study. Just 2 years later, the first nuclear test was conducted in India in 1974 under an operation called Smiling Buddha. But this was not a weapons-grade test. It was a peaceful nuclear explosion that could be used for mining techniques or to conduct large underground works. And just when we were about to upgrade to the nuclear weapons stage, India met with the emergency, and the government collapsed, the economy went topsy-turvy, and the second oil shock happened in 1979. But you know what, guys? During this time, from 1975 to 1995, the Indian Army knew very well that China was sharing technology and materials with Pakistan. They also knew that the Pakistani army would soon have nuclear weapons. And if they did, do you realize we would be cornered by 2 of our neighbors who possessed nuclear bombs? But somehow, we could not do anything about it. So, the question over here is, how did India handle this situation, and how the hell did we hack our way to become a nuclear state? Well, here's where we saw another ray of hope in 1995. By this time, India had opened up its economy, started growing at a phenomenal pace, and eventually, we came to a position to focus on our nuclear project. This is when PM Narasimha Rao approved a nuclear test. But unfortunately, the CIA detected suspicious movement at Pokhran, and the mission was aborted. And 1 year later, we again tried to conduct the test, but it was put on hold again because of a call from CIA officials. But this is where, ladies and gentlemen, for the third time, in 1996, Atal Bihari Vajpayee came to power. And this is where we saw 3 more legends come together to fulfill the long-standing nuclear dream of India. They were Atal Bihari Vajpayee, APJ Abdul Kalam from DRDO, and R. Chidambaramji, who was the chief of the Department of Atomic Energy in India. But even before they could get started, Vajpayeeji's government fell in just 13 days. And then came the climax year of 1998 when Atal Bihari Vajpayee again became the Prime Minister of India. So immediately, on April 8, APJ Abdul Kalam was summoned, thumbs up was given for the test, and the entire operation was conducted in such high secrecy that nobody except the then Home Minister knew about it. And the rest, as we saw in the Parmanu movie, an incredible team was set up at Pokhran. The team very cleverly avoided the US spy satellites with super accurate calculations. The nuclear devices were also flown from different parts of the country to avoid suspicion. And finally, on May 11, 1998, at around 3:45 p.m., India tested 3 devices which were Shakti 1, Shakti 2, and Shakti 3. This was followed by 2 more detonations of Shakti 4 and Shakti 5. And finally, the grand announcement was made by India to the world. Today, at 15:45 hours, India conducted 3 underground nuclear tests. This is how, ladies and gentlemen, India became a nuclear power. And you know what? Just 2 weeks later, Pakistan responded with its own atomic blast and became a nuclear power too. So you see, it was quite obvious and true that Pakistan was being supported by China and the US to corner India. Today, India is one among just the 9 nuclear states in the world. And although the US imposed sanctions on us, it was lifted soon, and India today is not just the second fastest growing economy but also a powerful state that can voice an opinion that is seriously considered by the world.